Welcome back to the Ragni region, the place where God of War Ragnarok meets Pokemon. In the last video, you chose between Charcoil, Trunks, and Dripnar as your starter. With that out of the way though, it's time to head toward the first gym. The first gym is located to the east in a place known as Svartalfheim. The journey there shouldn't be too hard, but to get there, you'll first have to do some traveling through Midgard, which would probably include 2 or 3 routes. These first routes are where you can meet some of the most common wild Pokemon. Whether you want to use them on your team of 6 is up to you, but we should at least see what's hiding in the grass. As with basically every Pokemon game, you can find a low-level bird and rodent, as well as some other weak Pokemon at this early stage of your adventure. For the regional bird, there is only one choice I could really make, that being a bird based off of Odin's ravens, which can be found almost everywhere across the entire game. The middle stage will look the most like the one found in-game, so the first stage will have to be a baby version. In the lore of God of War, these birds are very ghostly, so this line will be ghost and flying type, rather than the standard normal and flying. Making the first stage tie in with the egg it comes from is admittedly cliche, but I had to do it here as raven eggs are often this blue and black speckled color, which is kinda similar to the ghostly glow of the ravens found in God of War. It's a basic inspiration, but also a pretty basic Pokemon, so it's fine. Let's get started! So you can see my sketch in the background there, starting with the egg and making the cracks in the egg because it's going to be poking out and it's going to have the little classic eggshell helmet thing going on. The cracks in the egg are eventually going to look like jagged teeth of this like fake monster. You'll see what I'm saying here in a minute. The sides of the body, just filling that in, and then adding the fake eyes on this eggshell disguise. Wanted them to look scary and angry, and then also because it's a ghost and stuff, just adding like a rib cage type thing. And then I'm going in for the little speckles that would be like on a regular raven egg, but I decided to go with Norse rune looking symbols instead. They don't mean anything, they're not necessarily magic or whatever, but they just look good and tie everything together to the whole Norse thing. Working on the eyes and the beak for the face. I kind of wanted to give it this little sly look, just figuring out where to put the pupils, and I think the side eye looks good and completes that like ghostly, mischievous idea. Adding in the wings on the side there, just seeing them tucked in the shell like that. And now it's time for color. Doing black because it's a raven, of course, and then the ghostly blue that's also on regular raven eggs. Making the pupils the same color and doing the beak in an orange because it's the classic bird beak. But I decided that I wanted the inside to look like a dark mouth, you know, and it wouldn't make sense if there was a orange beak in it, so I made it gray to blend in better. I then wanted to add little pupils to make the fake egg monster thing look even more realistic, and made the Norse runes gray just to keep that gray, black, blue kind of more even and spread out across the whole design. Before shading, here is meet Spectre, the Raven Pokemon from Spectre and Egg, a ghost and flying type. These Raven-like Pokemon stay in their shell as a protective measure. The markings on the shell combined with the dark body on the inside create what looks like a ghostly face with sharp teeth in the darkness. It uses this camouflage to scare away predators while its mother is away from the nest. They're very cunning Pokemon as they know their disguise works well. It's said that children who go missing in Ragni become Spectre. The shiny version still uses camouflage to its advantage, looking like a white skull with a red mouth. These Pokemon have the abilities Intimidate, Shell Armor, and Curse Body as the hidden ability. For the regional normal type rodent, I wanted to use the most rodenty rodent in Ragnarok, Ratatoskr. It seemed obvious that the second stage would have to be based off the true form of Ratatoskr, but that left me a little stumped with the first stage. After some thinking though, I decided to base the first form off of Ratatoskr's smaller forms, the anxious, bitter, arrogant, and perfectionist parts of him that he projects out. The idea will be that the first form is very negative, but eventually grows to master its emotions. I'm not 100% sure how this one will go, but let's give it a shot. So I'm using a real baby squirrel as a base for this, just to help with the posing and shapes and everything, because it's a normal type, so it's the most like a real life animal. Doing the nose, mouth, ears, and eyes, and then moving on to the body. I had a lot of trouble with the feet actually, so I'm sorry if they don't look great, but I kind of gave up on them after a while, to be honest. I just could not get them down. Adding that classic squirrel tail and then some little toes, because who doesn't want toes? And then doing the eye, and the main feature of this Pokemon, it's split eye, as you'll see in a little bit. You can see my my earlier sketch there for a second, so sorry about that. That was horrible. Adding the some face details just to break up the brown color. I actually couldn't figure out what kind of brown I wanted to use. It took me a really long time to figure it out, but I got there eventually. And then a lighter brown just to break up the color, like I said. And then, like I said, the eye. So it's got the red, green, blue, and purple projections of Ratatoskr in it. So this is where it kind of holds its negative emotions, was the idea. So it's a very normal Pokemon, but then has this crazy focal point in its eye. But before shading, here is Fractoskr, the negative Pokemon, a normal type. Fractoskr are very negative Pokemon, and they often have a very anxious, bitter, arrogant, or perfectionist personality, or some kind of mix of the four. They do not wish to be this way, but simply can't help it. Their goal is to shed those negative emotions and become pure of heart. It's been proven that bonding with a trainer increases the chances of this happening tenfold. However, as they are hard to get along with in this state, there are many Fractoskr in Ragni that never evolve. The name Fractoskr comes from the word fraction or fracture and Ratatoskr. Its shiny is based off of the Bitter Squirrel's form, as that is the main form you see in the original God of War game as Atreus' animal summon. It has the abilities Tinted Lens, Hustle, and Pure Power to allude to its pure evolution. In God of War, one of the first bosses you fight is known as the Stalker, a cross between an elk and a human. I wanted to make an early route Pokemon similar to Poochyena or Shinx out of this early game boss fight. Of course, it will be a baby version, which aren't actually seen in God of War, so we'll have to make it up ourselves. In the lore, Stalkers are usually peaceful and just like to fight for a challenge. A grass and fighting type would be the perfect fit, but for this first stage, it will be pure grass. A baby Stalker that hides in the bushes. Here we go! So you can see my sketch in the background there, just starting off with the hooves and legs, kind of giving it an action pose. I'm actually pretty happy with this pose. I just like it. So this is a deer Pokemon, and it is standing up though, unfortunately for a lot of you. I know you guys hate bipedal Pokemon, but it's kind of a Minotaur. In fact, in God of War, they're called Stagtaurs in the art books, I'm pretty sure. But just giving it its arms and face and mouth, giving it kind of a battle-ready look. In a way, and of course the slingshot, you'll be seeing that pretty soon here, Gideonjon. Taking a lot of inspiration from Child Link from Ocarina of Time, honestly. I didn't mean for that, but eventually it just kind of turned into that with the green and the slingshot. If you know, you know, I guess. Of course green because it's a grass type, and also it'll be shooting like seeds and berries and stuff like that. Just finishing the rest of the colors, and I'm really happy with this one. But before shading, here is Stalkaf, the stalking Pokemon, from Stalker and Calf, a baby deer. A pure grass type. Stalkaf are herbivores, so they don't need to hunt for food. However, they stalk other Pokemon and sometimes people from the bushes. When the opponent's guard is down, they strike them with a seed or berry from their handmade slingshot before getting in closer for battle. This tactic is mischievous, but not deadly. Stalkaf don't shoot with much force. Their evolution often scolds them for this nature of attacking, as they are more chivalrous. If a Stalkaf is in a pinch though, they can break off one of their antlers and shoot that instead as a pointy last-ditch effort. Stalkaf have the abilities Inner Focus, Sniper, and Grass Pelt, which is Go-Goat's signature ability. The shiny form takes inspirations from Autumn colors, as well as a Shooter from the Shadows motif, and finally the red tunic from Zelda, since regular Stalkaf is somewhat reminiscent of Child Link with the slingshot and green tunic. If you didn't like any of these, there are some familiar faces in Midgard that you might prefer. If you search around some more, you can find Spinarak, Teddiursa, Deerling, Galarian Meowth, and Gimmighoul. After some traveling and hopefully some catching though, you've now made it to Svartalfheim. But out of nowhere, you suddenly get attacked by a small blue Pokemon. Meet Tinkaree, the Metalsmith Pokemon, a fairy and steel type. The name comes from Tinkatink and Sindri, one of the main dwarves in Ragnarok. Tinkaree are a male-only species of dwarven-like Pokemon. They're heavily related to Tinkatink, similarly to the way Nidoran male and Nidoran female are related. They tend to be more aggressive than their female counterparts and test their handmade hammers on anything and everything. However, due to their more off-the-handle nature, they don't create the sturdiest hammers and they often break. Eventually, they become jealous of Tinkatink's more well-designed hammers and make their own adequate enough to handle more than just a couple battles. This maturity often leads to Tinkaree's evolution. Its shiny is basically the same as Tinkatink's, just changing the steel hammer to a copper color. It has the abilities Mold Breaker, Odin Tempo, and Pickpocket as the hidden ability to steal metal for its hammers. Go ahead and catch it. In the next episode, we'll take a look at the Pokemon native to Svartalfheim and maybe even meet the gym leader. Until then though, let me know in a comment what Pokemon you would have on your team so far. And while you're down there, do me a favor and leave a like and subscribe for episode 3. Until next time, bye bye.